Welcome to the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio. We've got a fast-paced hour of fishing, hunting, and conservation covering the nation and the Northwest, including 13 extra minutes of local content you'll only hear on Seattle's sports radio, KJR.
It's Saturday morning, and I'm glad you're here because we've got some great regional guests for you. One of them is Tamara Mountainer. She is the owner of Garibaldi Charters down in Tillamook Bay in Northwest Oregon. Had her on an interview this weekend on our sister show, Northwestern Outdoors, about the light tackle rockfish trips that they have that also include crabbing. They throw out crab pots at the beginning of the trip and pick them up at the end of the trip. And on these trips, you also have a shot at lingcod too. If you're looking to introduce somebody to saltwater fishing, this trip is for you. We'll share the highlights from our feature interview at the bottom of the hour. At the end of the show, we'll talk to Bob Loomis again with Mack's Lure. The topic this time, kokanee fishing destinations in Montana, something you don't hear much about. But there is indeed some very good kokanee fishing in the Treasure State. Bob's going to tell you some places to go and how he would go about catching those kokanee this time of year. This portion of the show is brought to you by our Puget Sound area Sportsman's Warehouse stores in Federal Way and Puyallup and Everett and Silverdale and Sequim. And they have the gear you need for your Memorial Day weekend camping adventure. So if you need a new tent, if you need a cot, if you need a sleeping bag, if you need a camp stove, Sportsman's Warehouse has got you covered. So head on down today, get what you need for a successful camping trip to start off the camping season. We start off our outdoors news in the state of Oregon, where the Fish and Wildlife Commission has appointed current Deputy Director Debbie Colbert to be the new director for the agency. This is considered a win for recreational anglers because the other finalist, who is also a woman, she was a co-president or vice president of the Native Fish Society, an organization which has a habit of suing both Oregon and Washington to shut down hatchery operations when it comes to salmon and steelhead. Colbert becomes the first female head of this agency, and she was approved by a unanimous vote. Turning to upcoming events, the Washington State chapter of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's Summer Rendezvous is taking place May 31st through June 2nd at a new location. It's Camp Gormley in Natchez, Washington. This is a family-friendly, fun-filled weekend, and there's all sorts of fun events that'll be going on there. As far as lodging goes, you can either dry camp or actually stay in a bunkhouse. Some of the activities include horseback rides and paintballing, as well as archery. You can find out more by going to rmef.org and just go to the events page and look for the Washington State Rendezvous. Turning to fishing reports in terms of the tributaries of the Columbia River in southwest Washington, the place to be was both the mouth of the Wind River and Drano Lake. 534 anglers fishing out of boats at the mouth of the Wind River kept 223 Chinook, along with 4 jacks. And at Drano Lake, 581 anglers fishing out of boats kept 207 Chinook and 4 jacks. Bank angling continues to be not so hot. 17 bank anglers at Drano caught and released just 1 Chinook. If you don't want to drive quite that far, the Kalama River is still giving up some salmon. 54 boat anglers kept 16 Chinook and 2 jacks. Heading out to the Olympic Peninsula, creel checkers last week found that anglers were having some success catching both lingcod and halibut, marine areas 4 and 5, and the San Juan Islands, marine area 7, continues to give up some good lingcod catches, and those are some very tasty fish. Last but not least, if you're wondering how I did in that big bass tournament at Potholes Reservoir and Mardon Resort, I can tell you, it was a thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. All the hourly fish that were worth $500 each were in the 4-pound range, and the second day of the tournament, I hooked into a monster. I've caught 5-pound bass before, and this was a 5+ pound largemouth bass. And it did what big bass do. It headed straight towards cover and started wrapping me, and I tried to horse it out, and the line snapped, and a $6,500 paycheck went swimming away. On the bright side, the bass fishing right now, in Fuego, it is very good. So even if you're not fishing a tournament, it's a great time to head to Potholes Reservoir for both largemouth and smallmouth bass. And with that, you are now in the know about what's hot this week in the Pacific Northwest.
That's your first local shot of the outdoors. Now let's see what's going on across the nation.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Kruse.
Welcome aboard. We're doing something a little different this week. It's a destination show, and our destination is the Dalles in north central Oregon. It's located in a national scenic area. That's right. It's the Columbia River Gorge scenic area, and it is absolutely beautiful here. You've got the Columbia River that flows from Canada into the Pacific Ocean, bordering Oregon and Washington, and you've got the beautiful hills on either side of the river. Lots of agriculture, lots of basalt, lots of natural beauty. And oh yes, lots of great fishing and wildlife watching and wildflower hikes, bicycling, waterfalls, and so much more to be found in this neck of the woods that we're taking you to today. We're going to focus a lot on the fishing today. In just a minute, you're going to hear from Matt Hernandez. He's the owner of a new tackle shop in the Dalles called Daybreak Fishing, and he's going to run through some of the opportunities waiting for you on the Columbia River right now. After that, we're going to turn our attention from conventional fishing to fly fishing. When we talk to Nate Turner, Nate and his wife own Skookum Outfitters, a really nice fly shop in the Dalles, and Nate also does guided fishing trips too. We're going to focus partially on the Deschutes River, which is a classic western stream where you can catch native red band rainbow trout as well as steelhead and salmon. Nate will also tell you about another river he guides on. That would be the Klickitat, which is an excellent steelhead fishing stream located on the Washington side of the Columbia River Gorge. It's not just cold water fisheries we're going to be talking about. Oh no, Wendy Boyer, the owner of Gorge Outfitters Supply in nearby Rufus, Oregon, is going to tell you about the Rufus Catfish Derby. It's an annual event that's a whole bunch of fun. It's taking place May 25th and 26th. You are invited to not only fish in the Derby, but participate in the awards banquet where there's going to be live music, a great meal, and all sorts of fun going on. And we would be remiss if we didn't focus on some of the wildlife around here. We're going to check in with Morgan Olson. She's at the Columbia River Gorge Discovery Center, and really got to recommend a stop here. This is a first-class museum, and Morgan is the raptor coordinator. She puts on a number of presentations every week with the in-house raptors they have present. Morgan and I will be having a discussion about raptors that are found not only here in the Columbia River Gorge, but in a good part of North America. Put it all together and we've got a great show coming your way. So let's get it started with our first guest of the day. We are broadcasting from the Dalles, Oregon, chock full of fishing opportunities, and that's why we've gone to the local tackle shop. It's Daybreak Fishing, and it's owned by Matt Hernandez, and Matt's with us now. Matt, welcome to the show.
John, thanks for having me.
So this is a brand new tackle shop, and it's really filling a niche. There hasn't been a true tackle shop here in the Dalles for quite some time, has there?
Not that I'm aware of, John. So I plan on carrying a lot of salmon, walleye, bass, sturgeon. I mean, we have all these things along the river, and it sometimes is a little hard to find the gear we're looking for as an avid fisherman. Again, you are chock full of opportunities around here, so let's break them down. Right now, there is salmon fishing that's available in the gorge. We got the springers that you can fish for at the mouth of the Wind River and at Drano Lake. What kind of tackle do you suggest for catching those? Well, I do know there's a lot of guys out there using, the boats right now, and a lot of them are using the 360 flashers and using some kind of prawn spinner behind that, or they are also having success with cut plugs and stuffing them with some of the newer stuff coming out, such as the millennial bait mulch right now. I know a lot of guys have been having quite a bit of success with that, but, you could stuff any sort of scent or tuna in there as well.
The bank anglers, at least looking at the creel surveys, they're not doing so very good. As a matter of fact, last week, they were all skunked in those places we just mentioned.
That may be the case on certain days, but there are days where I've heard of that they have been having a lot of success and sometimes have more success than the bank anglers.
Are they generally like plunking a shrimp rig?
Yes, I have not been out myself, but I do have guys coming in looking for setups for the plunking.
Let's talk about walleye fishing. The Dalles pool here has got a whole bunch of walleye and some good-sized ones too. And this could be a good time of year to go after them because the spawn's probably wrapping up and those walleye are probably really hungry right now.
Yeah, I've been having guys coming in, getting walleye harness crawlers, and they've been doing pretty good, but the bass has also been picking up really well. Out there walleye fishing, a lot of guys have been picking up a lot of bass, and they've been picking up 2, 3, 4 pound bass, which are really nice smallmouth bass size.
Especially here in the north. Now, we've got people in the south, in Texas listening to the show today thinking 2, 3, 4 pound bass, that's nothing. But up here in the north, 4 pound smallmouths are really big fish. What are they catching the smallies on?
Well, a lot of guys are actually catching them using bottom walkers with worm harnesses, walleye harnesses, but the bass fishermen themselves that are actually going out and targeting them are having a lot of success with Ned rigs and jigs.
Tried and true smallmouth bass fishing tactics. But I think it is interesting that you're picking up so many doing the walleye fishing, but I'm also not surprised. So bass, walleye, salmon, and we should also talk about sturgeon. Now, sturgeon, that is a fish that a lot of folks are not familiar with. Why don't you go ahead and describe it to our listeners?
Well, a lot of people will describe him as a dinosaur. Been around forever, and I myself am not an avid sturgeon angler, but I have buddies that just live for sturgeon fishing. And during certain times of year, that's about all they do, especially when the shads start to run. I mean, there's guys out there fishing for them right now and having success, but when the shads start to run, guys are out there anchored up and fishing whole shads or filleting their shads out and having a lot of success with that. If you've ever fought a sturgeon, when you're fighting an oversized sturgeon, you're in for a 45-minute, if not an hour and a half long fight.
You're absolutely right. And folks, the sturgeon out here, a small one is considered 2 to 3 feet. A 2-footer is a baby. A 3-foot one is really common out here, but you can get them all the way up to 11 plus feet out here. And these are sturgeon, these 11-footers that are like 100 plus years old. They are like very ancient fish, and they put up a heck of a fight. And you would think a sturgeon that basically feeds on the bottom would stick to the bottom when they fight. Oh no, they jump, they shake, they are incredible fighters. And I don't know about you, but after I've caught a big one, all right, hand the rod to somebody else, I'm done for the day.
Yeah, they are definitely exhausting when you're reeling them in. It becomes a 4-arm workout really fast, and about 10 minutes in, you realize you're in it for the long haul.
You mentioned shad, and shad is a great bait for both sturgeon, and if you ever go crabbing, shad is probably the best bait I've ever used for crabbing. But they're a ton of fun to catch, and there's literally 4, 5, 6 million shad that come up the Columbia River every year these days, and they're a ton of fun to catch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You throw a light tackle rod or even a fly rod on, throw some shad darts down, and you're fishing. They swim hard. They come from the ocean, so they're out there swimming in the current, and when they come up here, they put up a fight.
Oh, they put up a great fight. They are scrappy fighters. They range anywhere from 1 to 4 pounds on average, and you can literally catch a 5-gallon bucket full in a hurry on a good day of shad fishing. So come to the Dalles and fish for shad, fish for sturgeon, fish for walleye, fish for bass, fish for catfish / bullhead, and fish for salmon too. And we didn't even get to the steelhead, but if you go to the Deschutes River in September, good opportunities for steelhead there too, depending on the year. The runs have been a little bit diminished in recent years.
Absolutely. The runs are nothing what they used to be, but certain times of year you can still go out, have success, and there's times in September where it is just, if you're not there, you're really missing out.
I agree completely. All right, let's wrap things up by telling folks what days you're open and what your hours are.
Well, Mondays I am open from noon to 6. Then Tuesday to Saturday it is from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And Sundays I am closed while road construction is underway.
Well, it gives you an opportunity to go fishing, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, and I'm taking full advantage of it.
So Mondays through Saturdays, if you're fishing in the Dalles, drop by Daybreak Fishing just like I am. I'm picking up some bait. I'm about to go fishing myself, and you can find not only bait, but everything you need for success when it comes to fishing the waters around the Dalles. Again, it's Daybreak Fishing located at 2412 West 2nd Street in the Dalles, Oregon. Hit up Matt for the most recent fishing reports, and he'll help you hook up with some fish. Matt, thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Absolutely, John. Thank you for coming in. It was a pleasure talking.
I'm heading to Sportsman's Cove Lodge with my daughter Faith. We're going to be fishing there from July 6th through the 9th, and guess what? They've got space available, and they are offering $1,000 off per person. So here's your opportunity to come fishing with me. I would love to fish with you for lingcod, for salmon, for halibut, true cod, and more. Again, the dates are July 6th through the 9th. It's $1,000 off. Go to alaskasbestlodge.com and sign up for a trip to Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
The Dalles in Oregon is your base camp for fishing fun. Reel in big salmon, tangle with steelhead, bass, and walleye, or wrestle a monster sturgeon to the boat. After the day is done, you'll find a variety of lodging options around town. Plan your fishing getaway today at explorethedalles.com. That's explorethedalles.com.
I'm Anthony Imperato, president of Henry Repeating Arms. Patriotic Americans are looking to protect and provide for their families now more than ever. Henry has over 200 rifles and shotguns to choose from. Made in America or not made at all. And backed by a lifetime guarantee. Order a free catalog, decals, and a list of Henry dealers in your area. Go to henryusa.com or call 1-800-958-4993. Thank you and God bless America.
Hunt of a Lifetime is a nationwide nonprofit organization dedicated to providing hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under who suffer from life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. These adventures make big differences in the lives of those who participate in them, and in many cases are literally a dream come true that brings hope and therapy to their lives. Find out more, get involved, or donate today at huntofalifetime.org. That's huntofalifetime.org. huntofalifetime.org. The Tillamook Coast isn't just about fishing, it's about clamming and crabbing too. Drop a crab pot into Tillamook Bay or a crab ring off the dock and haul in a bounty of fresh, Dungeness crab. You can also head to one of our many bays during low tide to gather a dinner of bay clams that will taste great steamed or in chowder. Find out more about these year-round activities and plan your visit today at tillamookcoast.com. That's tillamookcoast.com, Oregon's best bay clamming and crabbing.
Springtime is prime time to head to Mardon Resort to fish, hike, boat, and see wildlife. Park your RV, pitch a tent, or rent a wonderful park cottage at Central Washington's Potholes Reservoir and go play outside. When it comes to relaxing and enjoying the outdoors, Mardon is the place to be. To find out more, log on to mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com to book your next getaway where the fish bite, but we don't.
Come to Grant County in eastern Washington for a fishing vacation. You've got all sorts of lakes to choose from. You've got the Sun Lakes north of Ephrata, the Quincy Lakes between George and Quincy, the Seep Lakes below Potholes Reservoir, and the Big Three, that would be Potholes Reservoir, Banks Lake, and Moses Lake. Find out more about these fishing destinations and places to stay at grantcountywa.gov. That's grantcountywa.gov.
This year, resolve to immerse yourself into the great outdoors. Whether you're learning to hunt, fish, hike, camp, paddle, or grill, or are looking to take yourself to the next level, the place to go for the gear you need is Sportsman's Warehouse. With over 145 stores around the nation, Sportsman's Warehouse is truly America's premier outfitter. Find a store near you or shop online anytime at sportsmans.com. That's sportsmans.com for Sportsman's Warehouse.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We continued to broadcast from the Dalles in north central Oregon, and we've been telling you a lot about fishing on the Columbia River, but there's other rivers to fish around here too, especially if you like fishing with a fly rod. With us here to tell you more is Nate Turner. Nate and his wife Allison own Skookum Outfitters in downtown the Dalles, which is a great little fly shop. Nate, great to have you on board.
Howdy, John.
So let's start off talking about your fly shop. I really like it. It's not your typical fly shop with just some waders and some rods and a bunch of flies for you to choose from. You've got all sorts of accessories and gear in there.
We do. We're part fly shop, part outdoor store, and just outdoor lifestyle shop.
I think that's a good way to put it. You actually had a lot of high-end apparel that I think a lot of outdoorsmen and outdoorswomen would really like, and I'm sure they do, or else you wouldn't carry it. Let's talk about a couple of the rivers that you fish, because you offer, in addition to advice at the fly shop, you also have guided fishing trips you offer.
We do.
Just down the road from the Dalles is one of the West's greatest rivers, in my opinion, for fishing, the Deschutes River. Why don't you tell our listeners what kind of fish you'll find in this big river?
Well, throughout the summer, actually all year in about the lower 50 miles, we have a native red band strain, native strain of rainbows that aren't just everywhere. And they are a high desert rainbow trout that fight really, really hard for their weight. And they're spread out through the lower 100-mile stretch, the lower Deschutes. We target them with everything from big stonefly dries and streamers to small nymphs. And yeah, it's just a seasonal rotation from one hatch to the other.
Now, the lower river that I have fished and hiked up before, it's a big body of water. It's nothing you're going to even come close to casting across. Does it narrow down as you get higher up?
Yeah, it feels and looks a little bit smaller, the upper 50 miles from the Warm Springs area down to about Maupin, but it's just a big river in general. And the fact that you can't fish from a boat in the Deschutes means that we typically drift from one spot to the next, exit the boat, and get out to cast from a weighted position. It can really overwhelm anglers that haven't fished a river this size, especially from the bank lines. But really, the trout hug the banks because that's where the bugs are. And, I often tell people, don't worry about the stuff out in the middle because you can't reach it anyway. Just think about it like fishing a little stream just from where you're at right here. We have lots of great structure from really nice little riffles and glides to rocky basalt outcroppings and rock points, massive back eddies that gather up a day or two's worth of spent mayflies or caddis. Anything that doesn't make it to the bank or doesn't get eaten in the riffles ends up in these back eddies. And, it's a little cliche. I tell people all the time, but these big back eddies, they're like 7-Elevens. The food isn't always fresh, but there's always something to eat there.
I like it. The other two species the Deschutes is known for, and it's something I love to do just about every September, is I'll hike up the Deschutes, and I'm targeting both Chinook salmon, and I'm also targeting summer steelhead. And the steelhead runs have been down in recent years, but when it's on, the fishing for both is really good, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Typically with fly fishing customers, we're generally targeting steelhead, but we end up with, some quote unquote bycatch sometimes. Sometimes we get lucky in a fall Chinook or even a coho will grab those swung flies and dead drifted nymphs, and it's a hell of a ride on a fly rod. But I've spent the better part of my life pursuing summer steelhead in the Deschutes with a single swung fly, and that's an uphill battle to begin with. I've seen really, really good years, big numbers of steelhead, and I've seen really low years. And I'll tell you what, even when there's lots of fish around, it can still be tough. And even in the low years, we're able to catch a couple of fish a day, sometimes better. And, the fact that we're pursuing with a single barbless hook just makes each one that we get to tail and land that much more special.
So you offer day trips on the Deschutes. You also offer a multi-day camping/fishing trip that sounds like an absolute hoot. You're traveling by raft or drift boat on these trips?
The fly fishing guides that work with me, and including myself, we travel down the river in aluminum drift boats. It's a really elegant, comfortable, safe way to see the best parts of the otherwise remote canyon stretches.
And folks, it is beautiful. The Deschutes River, that whole country that it traverses, absolutely gorgeous. And you're going to enjoy the view just as much as you're going to enjoy the fishing. I guess we should move on to another river, and that would be on the Washington side of the Columbia, the Klickitat. And that's another one I've had good success with for both steelhead and salmon in the fall.
Yeah. The Klickitat is, compared to the Deschutes, is much smaller, more intimate. The environment that you're floating through is a little bit more green, a little less deserty, especially up in the upper reaches. And the genetics for both the salmon and steelhead species in that river are amazing. Really, really big Chinook, and in some cases a little bit bigger than average steelhead too. Very aggressive. They have to climb a really steep gradient to get to their spawning grounds, and they move around constantly. So it's kind of fun to do day floats on the Klickitat from one run to the next. There's lots and lots of rocky structure. You can fish that river out of the boat. The bulk of the trips that I do, we're using the drift boat to get from one spot to the next, but we're getting out and using two-handed rods and spey casting and swinging flies for mainly steelhead.
You know, the Klickitat is definitely a lot smaller. I think it's the kind of trout stream that most people are used to fishing, but it's very unlike the Deschutes, which kind of goes through a lot of desert country. You've got the Klickitat, which you've got all this oak savanna. In the fall, it's absolutely beautiful there.
Yeah, you know, another thing to mention too is it's undamped. So throughout the course of a day, you know, we see the cycles from, you know, the effects from the previous day's heat or lack thereof. So you'll see a little change, a little more of a variable change in flows and also water clarity. And absolutely, you know, all the way up in the upper reaches of the Klickitat, it feels almost like you're in an evergreen forest. Lots of wildlife to be seen up there. And then as you descend down through the middle stretches and get closer to the Columbia, the oak savanna dominates and it gets a little bit more open, a little warmer. So it's a really dynamic river. I can't get enough of it. There's more cool little spots to check out for both fishing and also off the river. It's completely different from a day trip experience you see on the Deschutes or even the Yakima or any of the other high desert rivers. It's a real gem.
There's a couple of other trips you offer. We're just not going to have time to get to today, but if you go to SkookumOutfitters.com, you can check them out. One of these trips is on the Sandy River. The other one is actually sight fishing for carp, and that can be all sorts of fun when you hook into one of those tanks. So check out Skookum Outfitters. If you're in the Dalles, you've got to stop by the fly shop. It's going to be a real treat. You're going to really enjoy it. You can meet Nate. You can meet Allison. Get some great advice about going fishing. And yes, they do offer casting lessons too, both with single fly rods and spey rods. You can definitely become a better angler by going to the Dalles and hooking up with Skookum Outfitters. Skookum spelled Skookum. That's SkookumOutfitters.com. Nate, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John.
Do you love to fish? Do you love to eat fish? Well, if you do, you know how important it is to have something to keep things sharp. Now, in the boat, it might be something to keep your hook sharp, like maybe the pocket knife sharpener from Work Sharp, which also works just fine along with the guided field sharpener for keeping fillet knives sharp. So when it comes to cleaning those fish you catch for the day, you can get that done in a hurry. And let's not forget, back at the house, when you're preparing those fish for a meal, that's when you want to have a kitchen knife sharpener, and there's several electric ones available. You can find them all at worksharptools.com, which lists all sorts of both manual and electric sharpeners you can use in the kitchen, in the shop, or in the field. Sharp hooks and sharp knives make for a happy day on the water, so get your sharpener today at worksharptools.com or look for these products at quality sporting goods stores and hardware stores near you.
Hunt of a Lifetime is a nationwide nonprofit organization dedicated to providing hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under who suffer from life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. These adventures make big differences in the lives of those who participate in them, and in many cases are literally a dream come true that brings hope and therapy to their lives. Find out more, get involved, or donate today at huntofalifetime.org. That's huntofalifetime.org. huntofalifetime.org.
I'm heading to Sportsman's Cove Lodge with my daughter Faith. We're going to be fishing there from July 6th through the 9th, and guess what? They've got space available, and they are offering $1,000 off per person. So here's your opportunity to come fishing with me. I would love to fish with you for lingcod, for salmon, for halibut, true cod, and more. Again, the dates are July 6th through the 9th. It's $1,000 off. Go to alaskasbestlodge.com and sign up for a trip to Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Ready for more local fishing and hunting? You got it. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, right here on Seattle's Sports Radio, KJR.
For your next local shot of the outdoors, we've got Tamara Mountner on the line. She's the owner of Garibaldi Charters, located in Tillamook Bay in Northwest Oregon. And I've fished with this charter service before, and boy, oh boy, I had a ton of fun doing it, and that's why we've got Tamara on the line to talk about doing it again. Tamara, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, John. Good to be here.
Let's talk about the trip that I took my daughter on a few years ago, because it was just so much fun. It was a light tackle rockfish trip, and it also involved crabbing, too. And it was so wonderful because we were on board with several families, some with young children who had never been ocean fishing before, and everybody had a great time. Why don't you walk us through this trip?
Sure. Yeah, that's probably our most popular trip because we do take ages 7 and up. So kids age 7 to 11 get a discounted rate. And it's really popular with families. It's very popular with people that want to get out for their first time fishing, but it's also a lot of fun even if you're experienced. Mainly what we're fishing for is the black rockfish. And we often get our limits of those. The limit's 5 this year. So you can pull in up to 5 of those. And then if you get a lingcod on that trip, that's like a bonus fish. You can actually keep up to 2 extra if you get lingcod. So 5 rockfish and 2 lingcod. This time of year, we do see more lingcod caught on that trip than any other time of year. When you get into June and July and August, it's a lot of rockfish. But there is some variety, so you're not always just catching the black rockfish, although that will be the main part of the catch. So it's about a 4 to 6 hour trip, just depending on how it goes. A lot of times we'll reach our limit before that time is up and head back in for the crab pots, which is also a lot of fun. We throw out 6 pots at the beginning of the trip, and then we have volunteers haul them up. And whatever we get in those pots that are keeper size and male crab, then we'll split all that up between the passengers, cook it up for you at the end of the trip while we're filleting the fish, and you get to go home with a couple crab per person usually. It's a lot of fun.
The website to go to is GaribaldiCharters.com. That's GaribaldiCharters.com. Give Tamara a call and book a trip. Head towards Tillamook. Another website to check out is TillamookCoast.com because that's got all sorts of ideas for you on other things to do and places to stay and places to eat and more.
A seafood bounty is waiting for you on Northwest Oregon's Tillamook coast. Catch a limit, haul up a pot of delicious crab, and dig up a bunch of clams for some hot chowder. Plan your visit today at TillamookCoast.com.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We're now broadcasting from the Columbia Gorge Discovery Center in the Dalles. And folks, if you ever come to the Dalles, Oregon, we've told you how great the fishing is, but you've got to make a stop here because this place is a state-of-the-art museum, and it covers prehistory. We're talking natural history, the time that massive mammals wandered the area around here. We're talking about geological history. We're talking about Lewis and Clark. We're talking about Native American history, right up to the present day to include the building of dams and locks. But something special that they have here is raptors, and they have presentations several days a week at 11 a.m., and we actually just happen to have the raptor expert with us and the raptor coordinator. She is Morgan Olson. Morgan, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Well, it's nice to talk to you again after, it's been about 5 years when you first started here and when we first met. So we're long overdue for a talk about raptors. Why don't you tell our listeners the raptors that you have here?
So in our care, we currently have 3 species represented by 4 birds. We have our 2 bald eagles, Lovely Liberty and Handsome Ferguson, as well as our ferocious red-tailed hawk Killer and the always charismatic American kestrel Hank. And through these species, we represent some of the larger groups of raptors. Raptors are defined by 3 key characteristics. Their keen eyesight, sharp hooked beaks, and great big powerful feet with long curved talons. But the 3 major groupings of birds that are considered to be the raptors are the hawks, the falcons, and the owls. And in case you're wondering, you just said eagles. How do eagles fit into this? And eagles fall under the category of hawk.
Oh, okay. And the kestrel, is it a hawk or a falcon? It is called a sparrowhawk.
It is most certainly a falcon.
Oops.
Yep. But it's one of those things. If you were to query your friends, hey, what makes a falcon a falcon? What's the difference between a hawk and a falcon? And there are actually a few very key physical differences.
Tell me more.
So one of them is actually the structure of the beak. The beak of the falcon has an extra little notch that we call the tomial tooth. The peregrines have it, the prairies have it, the gyrs have it. Falcons all throughout the world, whether it's the smallest falcon in the world, the pygmy falcon of Africa, or some of the most lovely falcons you'll ever see, the saker falcon of Europe. It's that tomial tooth that helps define falcons, as well as overall wing shape and silhouette, but the tomial tooth is really where it's at.
Very interesting. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the history of raptors here in America. The bald eagle is probably one of America's best conservation success stories. They were almost driven extinct through the use of DDT, but I guess I don't really understand how that affected the eagles and caused their decline.
So with bald eagles, it wasn't we were spraying them with the compound. It was something they accumulated through their diet, through what we call biomagnification. As they eat all those delicious fish from the waterways, that DDT compound builds up within their bodies. More specifically, within the body of the female bald eagle, when she goes to lay her eggs at the start of that nesting season, their eggshells are significantly thinner. It interrupts and interferes with that calcium transfer. So when she goes to incubate the eggs, when she goes to tuck them against her fluffy feathered body to give them her warmth, well, they get cracked. And so it's sort of an entire generation of bald eagles simply never happened. But as you said yourself, it's the greatest conservation success story. We went from species we were worried was going to be gone forever to being delisted in 2007.
That is great news. And, our history with raptors here in the United States has not always been a good one. There was a time just a few decades ago when farmers and ranchers would routinely shoot hawks and owls. Why was that?
So to some degree, it might have been encouraged from the area that they were in. In fact, there were bounties on bald eagles, if you could believe it.
Wow.
But also it was the idea that these raptors would either interfere with the production, with the harvest, or that they would be a threat to the farmers and their families or their greater communities. I mean, if you looked at a bald eagle, you see it sitting there on that tree, that is a big-looking bird. Well, what you may not necessarily realize is that big, powerful female with the 7-foot wingspan watching as she majestically swoops around, picks that fish out of the river, draws it back to shore, she may only weigh about 11 pounds.
And that's something else I want to discuss when it comes to the bald eagle. I know a lot of them scavenge, but as you mentioned, some of them will go ahead and get fish. And tell me if this is true or not, that they will attack and kill and eat ducks.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, this is an outdoorsman program, I assume, so we also enjoyed the taste of a good duck, and my mom was very fond of using duck fat for roasting potatoes. But eagles also will go after numerous waterfowl. In addition to ducks, swans, herons, and coots are all fair game.
Well, I don't think anyone's going to miss too many mud hens, but I am surprised that they're going after the herons, because those are pretty big birds themselves.
Well, I don't want to be unkind to the eagles, but babies are often quite defenseless creatures.
Ah, gotcha. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the presentations that you give here. It's Thursdays through Saturdays or Thursdays through Sundays at 11 a.m.?
Thursdays through Sundays at 11 a.m.
Okay, and what happens during these presentations?
So we kind of keep it short and simple right now. It's just a matter of giving people a chance to come down to our bald eagle enclosure, observe the eagles in their enclosure, and really take in how big an eagle is, and it also gives you a chance to ask your question no matter how silly. And when I say no matter how silly, I mean, and apologies if this woman ever hears me saying this, but I did have somebody once ask me, do birds poop?
Okay, they say there's no silly questions. Young lady, wherever you may be, that does qualify as a silly question. What goes in must go out.
True, but there are also other questions people may have. Again, can a bald eagle pick up my dog? Well, depends on how heavy your dog is. Do I need to worry about a bald eagle going after my children? Well, depends how close you get to that mama eagle when she's on her nest.
And you don't have any owls here, but that was something that's very interesting to me when I found out that great horned owls will attack skunks because they can't smell, so the stink doesn't bother them a bit.
Yeah, when you're a skunk, that's kind of your biggest self-defense technique, is making things stink. Oh, such a powerful stench. But for owls, with that lack of sense, they can't really smell other things. Well, one, it doesn't interrupt with their hunting ability. They're not going to rely on that sense of smell to find prey. And two, it doesn't interrupt with their ability to communicate within their own species. Dogs, wolves, coyotes, cats, cougars, bobcats, all of these normal terrestrial predators, well, scent plays a very important role in their day-to-day lives. But for owls, they're communicating through physical cues, through verbal cues. They're listening to each other, they're calling out, but sniffing each other, that's not what owls are up about.
So many more questions I have, but we are unfortunately out of time. But folks, again, you've got to come to the Dalles, Oregon. And when you do, come to the Columbia Gorge Discovery Center and make sure you do it between a Thursday and a Sunday, and meet Morgan Olson. She'll be giving presentations each of those days at 11 a.m. And you can ask all sorts of questions, just like I did, about these beautiful and wonderful raptors that we have here in America. Morgan, thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
In other news, got to give it up for our friends at Henry Repeating Arms. They've come up with something very unique. It's the Garden Gun Smoothbore 22 caliber lever action rifle. Now, the Henry Garden Gun is one that you use if you are trying to deal with mice or maybe snakes on your property. And obviously, if you live in the city, this isn't going to work out for you. But if you live in the country and want to get rid of some of these pests, this is the perfect rifle for you. It actually uses a 22 caliber long-range shot shell, and because it's a smooth bore and doesn't have rifling, it distributes the projectiles in a really tight pattern. Throw in the fact it's got a 15-round capacity, and there's plenty of pest control to go around. It's like all of the firearms from Henry Repeating Arms. It's made in the USA. It comes with a lifetime satisfaction guarantee, so check it out. It's at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com. And don't forget to ask for your free decals and catalog while you're there.
Explore the Dalles, the hub where discovery and history come together. Whether the Northwest is your home or you're on an adventure, the Dalles welcomes you. Just 80 miles east of Portland is the perfect year-round escape with a community that cares about you. 300 days of sun, breathtaking outdoor recreation, and a downtown full of the unexpected. Oh, and the rich history that began before the Oregon Trail. Start planning at explorethedalles.com.
I'm heading to Sportsman's Cove Lodge with my daughter Faith. We're going to be fishing there from July 6th through the 9th, and guess what? They've got space available, and they are offering $1,000 off per person. So here's your opportunity to come fishing with me. I would love to fish with you for lingcod, for salmon, for halibut, true cod, and more. Again, the dates are July 6th through the 9th. It's $1,000 off. Go to alaskasbestlodge.com and sign up for a trip to Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Campers, adventure seekers, hunters, and foodies. No matter the lifestyle, we can all agree on one thing. Great food and great people are worth remembering. At Camp Chef, we don't just make grills. We create each product knowing that a warm meal is always better when it's shared with those we love. Learn more about Camp Chef grills, smokers, and portable cooking equipment at campchef.com. That's campchef.com for a better way to cook outdoors.
When you think of Work Sharp knife and tool sharpeners, you probably think of sharpeners for the shop or the field, but Work Sharp has a whole lineup of sharpeners for the kitchen, too. We're talking about everything from easy-to-use manual and electric knife sharpeners to ceramic honing rods, whetstones, and the new rolling knife sharpener, an innovative manual sharpener that will do wonders for your cutlery. Make sure there's never a dull moment in your kitchen. Check out the entire product line and order today at WorkSharpTools.com. That's WorkSharpTools.com.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our healthcare. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining Medi-Share right now. Medi-Share is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly healthcare costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. MediShare can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And MediShare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 29 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. Our next stop is Gorge Outfitters Supply in Rufus, Oregon. It's located right next to the John Day Dam on the Columbia River, and this is ground zero for some great fishing. With us here to tell you more about a really cool event coming up is Wendy Boyer, the longtime owner of this business. Wendy, great to have you back on the air.
Thanks, John. Good to see you.
So May 25th, May 26th, the annual Rufus Catfish Derby. Tell our listeners about this event.
So it's a 2-day event that we hold on the John Day River. It's 2-person teams, up to 4 teams per boat or from the bank. We have a kids category. This year we're paying the top 3 heaviest combined team weights. We're paying the top 3 longest catfish. We are also doing a big fish pot both days. And then, of course, our kids category, like I mentioned, we usually have a lot of kids that come with their families, and the kids need to be included in this fun family event.
Are these all channel cats here?
Strictly channel cats, yes.
And how big is a big one that might get you money or a prize?
We generally see 16 to 19 pound winners come out of there.
So the John Day River, it's a beautiful river, folks. Most people know it for smallmouth bass, for steelhead, but the lower stretch has got catfish. So tell our listeners exactly where to go to catch the catfish this time of year.
So the Derby, you can fish from the mouth right under the railroad bridge there up to the marker at Tumwater Falls. It's about an 8-mile stretch from the boat launch at LePage. And there's a lot of good holes up there by the boat camp all the way up to the falls itself.
And this is really unique. You have this Army Corps of Engineer park, LePage Park. It's got a great boat ramp right there by the bridge, the highway bridge. And then you go up a couple of miles, and there's actually a boat-in campground, which is also very nice. And from there, you go up to the falls. So I understand where folks are going to fish from the boat. What about bank anglers? Do they have any options here?
They do. There is a lot of access. You'll have to access it, obviously, by a boat to get up there. But up closer to Tumwater Falls, there is a lot of great bank access for the majority of our people that are entering the Derby will actually bank fish up there in those deeper holes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So they'll get up there by boat, hop off onto shore, and then fish from the bank. What are they using to catch the fish?
A lot of them have a secret recipe that they will not share, but we definitely sell a lot of any kind of chicken. Some guys are actually using hot dogs, shrimp, any kind of cured shrimp, any kind of stink bait, which we also have in the store. Also, they will catch fish and use pieces of the cut fish.
What about that Berkeley power bait stuff for catfish? Does that work?
It absolutely does work, yes. We sell that year-round actually in here, but a lot of guys for the Derby will use that.
In addition to the actual event itself, there's other things that go on. There's usually quite a soiree at the end of the event on Sunday, right?
Yes, there is. So Sunday is our awards ceremony that we have across the street over at the Bob's Texas T-Bone parking lot. And at the awards ceremony, we'll have a big dinner that Bob's Texas T-Bone, Jeff over there, does a great job and his crew of catering the food for that event. We will have an outside beer garden. We will also have our live entertainment this year, also provided by Country Fight again. They always put on a great show. So dinner, dancing, outside beer garden. It is open to the public. Come down and join us and get your dancing shoes on.
How do people enter the Rufus Catfish Derby? How much does it cost? And is the awards banquet included?
So any of the contestants, the awards banquet itself, entry into the live entertainment, and their dinner is free, included in the entry fee. The cost per team is $110 per team. Kids, of course, we didn't put them in a team category. They're going to be entered as individuals, and the kids' entry fee for kids 12 and under is $45 each.
Well, let's switch topics here, and let's talk a little bit about your store. How long have you owned Gorge Outfitters Supply now? It's been a minute.
Just a minute or two. It's actually been 8 years.
Wow. And, I remember when you first started, you didn't have a lot of inventory then. And, here you are in a male-dominated world when it comes to at least the fishing industry and tackle shops, and you are chock full to the brim with fishing supplies and fishing gear now, aren't you?
Fishing tackle, fishing gear, fishing bait, of course, and then we also have a pretty significant size camping room for your camping supplies, tents, sleeping bags, those kind of things.
But wait, there's more. You've got food, too.
We do have food. We have kind of a unique little menu to a fishing tackle shop. So we offer biscuits and gravy all day long, half orders or full orders. We just also implemented what's called breakfast rollers and lunch rollers. Several different flavors of those. For breakfast, you can get a bacon, egg, and cheese roller, or you can get a French toast and sausage roller. A couple other choices for breakfast as well. And then moving to lunch, you can do a steak and cheese roller. These are just kind of like a taquito, but bigger.
And then you've got pizza, all sorts of different varieties, huckleberry milkshakes, which I understand are very popular in the summer, and then a walking taco. What the heck is a walking taco?
It's a taco that walks, literally. You can eat this taco while you're walking, but it's very popular with the fishermen. Get a walking taco and they take it out on the boat. It's literally a taco that's made in a bag of Doritos, and all the regular taco ingredients are put inside that bag with your taco meat, and away you go with your taco bag and your fork.
Ingenious. Now, that's the store, and we've talked about the Rufus Catfish Derby. We need to talk about a couple other things, too, because you just keep expanding. So now you've actually got an Airbnb right behind the store, don't you?
Yes, we do. It's geared toward the fishers and hunters that come to our area. Since I'm out of room inside my store, we've had to expand in other areas. And this is one of the expansions that we have recently added. It is a 2-bedroom Airbnb directly behind the store here. Like I said, we've geared it toward fishers and hunters. We have a huge gravel parking lot area for the boats. You can park up to probably 4 or 5 boats, up to 5 or 6 cars. It will sleep comfortably up to 6 people. It is 100% completely stocked with everything that you would need for your stay. We also offer all-inclusive at the Airbnb, so you can send me a message with the groceries and drinks that you would like to see in the unit when you get there, and it will all be waiting for you.
I like it. I like it. And wait, there's even more. Now you're starting to do scooter rentals, e-bike rentals, and jet ski rentals.
Yes, effective immediately. We've just started this program. We are a jet ski rental company as well. The name of that business is Rufus Rentals, and it is located inside Gorge Outfitters Supply. This business has its own contact phone number, and that phone number is 541-300-0004, or you can also stop by the store here at Gorge Outfitters and we can give you information and rent them to you if you just come in. But I definitely recommend reservations by calling or texting that phone number that I just gave you.
And one other thing we should discuss, the Airbnb, how do you go about renting that?
You would go directly to the Airbnb site. It's going to ask you the dates that you're interested in coming to our area, and you will see it on there. If the dates that you're putting in there, if the unit is already full, it's not going to pop up. If you're having trouble, you can always give me a call down here at the store, and I can send you the link directly to get directly to that unit.
So make plans to head to Rufus, Oregon, and stop by the store, find out more about the Airbnb, maybe rent a scooter or an e-bike or a jet ski, and be sure to enter. The Rufus Catfish Derby, taking place May 25th and 26th, is going to be all sorts of fun. You might go home with a whole bunch of catfish, too. Wendy, always a pleasure to have you on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure always.
I hope you enjoyed our conversations with our guests as much as I did. I'll tell you what, the Columbia River Gorge has a special place in my heart. For almost 20 years, I went fishing down there every September, went to an event that was called Fish Camp, put on by longtime fishing guide and promoter Ed Iman. That finally went away after COVID, but a lot of great memories of fishing the Deschutes and Klickitat rivers for both Chinook salmon and summer steelhead, of fishing the John Day River for smallmouth bass, of fishing the Columbia River for very good-sized smallmouth bass, as well as walleye and huge sturgeon, not to mention the Chinook that were also present off the mouth of the Klickitat and the Deschutes and the White Salmon rivers, and don't even get me started on my trips in June where I was fishing for shad, fishing for bass, fishing for pike minnow, and having all sorts of fun in the process. If you're looking for places to stay and to eat, there's a whole bunch of wineries and breweries and great hotels in the Dalles. Just go to the Dalles Area Chamber of Commerce website. You'll find that at explorethedalles.com. That's explorethedalles.com. And if you have any questions, give them a call or shoot them an email. Ask for a visitor's guide. They'll be happy to hook you up with all the information you need for a great adventure to this beautiful part of the Pacific Northwest. The website again, explorethedalles.com. That's Explore the Dalles, the Dalles spelled D-A-L-L-E-S, explorethedalles.com. Plan your trip to the Columbia River Gorge today. And on that note, it is time to go, but here's hoping you are blessed in the days ahead, that you're healthy, that you're getting out there to enjoy the late spring weather and all of the outdoors opportunities that comes with it. Because after all, it is your country and your outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.
backcountryhunters.org. Join the fight for our public lands and waters today.
Don't leave yet. We've got one more local shot of fishing and hunting to wrap up the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio.
You know what time it is? It's time for another extended Max Minute with Max Lure, and with us once again is Bob Loomis. Bob, let's talk kokanee, let's talk Montana. What are a couple of fisheries that come to mind out there?
Well, you know, John, there's a number of lakes, and I think there's actually a lot more lakes than we actually know. But Lake Marianan, Chain Lakes, Holter, you know, there's a number of lakes up there, and they're kind of overlooked, so to speak. You know, everybody goes to Montana to go trout fishing.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But as we both know, kokanee, they taste great. They're less filling, and they are landlocked sockeye salmon after all. If you were heading to one of those lakes, what's something you'd recommend using?
Well, my number one thing, especially in this early to mid-spring time frame, I'm still going to be trolling relatively slow. Waters are cold. I'm going to use a double D Dodger so I can get a good amount of movement out of my gear. And I'm going to use probably a Coconut Glow. Coconut Glow, it's like the old Coconut with the tube and the Flashaboo, everything on it. It's all high UV, but we also have one of our tried and true glow hooks tied into the whole system. So it works out fantastic. It's a small profile lure. So it looks like fishing a micro hoochie or something like that. Works very, very well this time of the year.
We should also talk about the size of the Dodger. This is not a full-size double D Dodger I'm seeing in front of me.
No, that's a 4.4 inch. I start out early in the season with small presentation, smaller gear, and then work your way up. You know, when you get mid-season on into the late part of the season for kokanee, most of it's going to be reaction type bite. So you want a lot of movement. I'll go up to a 6-inch Dodger, the 5.8-inch double D Dodger, or 6-inch Sling Blade.
Well, there you go, folks. We are out of time, but if you are going to Montana or anywhere else this time of year, consider a 4.4-inch double D Dodger, and behind it have a Coconut Glow Hook, and you'll likely be in for success. Look for these items in sporting goods stores near you or online anytime at maxlure.com.
That's all for this week, but don't worry. We'll do it all again next Saturday morning from 7 to 8, right here on Seattle's Sports Radio, KJR.
Looking for that extra something that will get more salmon or trout into your boat? Then check out the Double D Dodger from Max Lure. The Double D does double duty and helps you catch more fish. The Double D's flash attracts lunkers, and the Dodger's patented stop-start action works wonders to get those fish biting. The Double D does even more by acting as a side planer to get your bait away from the boat where the fish are more likely to be and more apt to strike. The Double D Dodger. It's the Dodger you've got to have from Max Lure.